on me.
Hey, everybody, welcome. It's that time again. Matt Connarton Unleashed. And we are live from the studios of WMNH 95.3 FM in glorious downtown Manchester, New Hampshire. Also on Comcast 97 if you're in Manchester. Streaming at WMNHradio.org. And, of course, on the Facebook, on the Matt Connarton Unleashed Facebook page. And, of course, for all of your live streaming options, you can also go to my website, mattconnerton.com. For all of your not only live streaming options, but social media links and contact info and show archives, etc., etc. We have a lot of more and more people listening, not just here in Manchester, but around the globe. It's quite wonderful, quite wonderful. And, I see Charles Richardson, in fact, in the chat room. Charles, for example, is in Florida, which reminds me, hello to our friends at Raw Talk Online as well. Today is Wednesday, July 21, 2021. And here we are, my friends. I do want to remind you, of course, that we are proudly sponsored by the Hop Knot in the Brady Sullivan at 1000 Elm Street, right across the street. They have delicious gourmet pretzels. They have craft beer. They have wine. They have live music on Friday nights. Our friend Grant Lampton, who was here yesterday, has his, on Tuesdays, he's the Clark Kent version of himself. He's Mike Sudderth. But on Fridays, he becomes Superman. He is Grant Lampton playing live at the Hop Knot every Friday night from 7 to 9 p.m., So they've got Sunday brunch. They've got a bunch of, they have something else too. Shoot, I don't have it pulled up. They've got another gender blender event, I should say they're calling it. They've got a lot of great stuff coming on. I'll see if I can find that during the break at the top of the hour so I can mention it in the second hour. But yes, please visit the Hop Knot. Great food, great service, and such a wonderful family that owns and operates it. And we are so honored and privileged to have them as a sponsor. It was 1 week ago today that we made radio history with our first live remote here on Matt Connarton Unleashed from the Hop Knot. And what a wonderful day that was. But yes, please pay them a visit. Also, by the way, a quick programming note, stick around because tonight, well, stick around for this show first, but then tonight, immediately following this program at 6 p.m., our friend Kyle Heavey will be here for a live Wednesday edition of Off the Mark Sports. So stay tuned to WMNH even after this program ends for Kyle Heavey coming up at 6 p.m. So lots of fun and or excitement. Another big thing. So Friday, well, I've received a couple of messages from Texas Mike recently. We'll talk about the most recent one in a moment. But Mikey messaged me, and apparently on Friday, this is not about what's happening Friday night. Apparently there's something else that he alerted me to. Friday afternoon, Texas Mike will be coming by and bringing with him, finally, I will get to meet Texas Mike's meme. I am very, very excited about this. As you all know, she is my biggest fan. She came all the way. I guess there's some other things, maybe a wedding she has to go to or something. But the main reason, of course, she came all the way up here from Texas is to meet me. And finally on Friday, I understand she's nervous. She's a little, they say you should never meet your heroes, but I will try not to disappoint her. She will be here to meet me. Now, I don't know if she's coming on the air. Oh, yep. Mikey's in the chat room and says, so excited to have you meet my meme on Friday before the show. Now, the way Mikey keeps wording that, though, it does give me the impression that she's not coming on the show. She's coming on before the show to meet me. But I would invite her, of course. She is invited to participate in the actual program. That would be very exciting. But regardless, I will finally get to meet, or I should say, Texas Mike's meme will finally get to meet me on Friday. So this is very, very exciting. Speaking of exciting, you can call the show and join the excitement at 603-250-6007, 603-250-6007. You can also text me at 617-917-4476 tweet me at Matt Connarton, or send an email to matt@mattconnerton.com. And, of course, you can always interact and opine in the Facebook live chat, and we'll say hello to everyone in there in a moment. But the best thing to do on this Wednesday afternoon so that we can hear and enjoy your dulcet tones is ring me up at 603-250-6007. But, yes, we will say hello to everybody in the Facebook live chat. Mike Pelopita is a top fan, says, hi, Matt. Good afternoon, everyone. Mike, of course, from another one of our amazing sponsors here at WMNH 95.3 Queen City Cabinetry in the historic Sunbeam Mall. And it was 1 week ago today, I finally got to meet Mike Pelopita in person. That's kind of fun to say. Mike Pelopita in person, because there's two P words. Anyway, it was great to finally meet Mike. Texas Mike, as I mentioned, is in the chat room. Michael Albert joins us in the chat room and says, back on the crazy train? Well, I don't know what would make you say that there, Michael Albert.
Because he's an offensive guy. He says things.
So, well, we'll address that in a moment. Michael Albert says, I don't know. I think Crazy Joe might steal me away. Well, okay. So here's why this has come up. We won't spend much time on this, but some listeners are really into the Crazy Joe saga, and some hate it. It's a very divisive, and I'm sure there's many listeners who feel somewhere in between. It's a very divisive subject. But, it was via text, right. So, Texas Mike sent me this. Apparently, Crazy Joe was active earlier on the Facebook. And I'm going to have to clean this up for radio. But Crazy Joe from New York City, he's a real New Yorker, That's how you know he means business. He says, hey, tell your blank friend, Matt, I'm going to be on my page. He knows which one, the Crazy Joe Show page. Tell him I'm going to take his fans from him 9 p.m. Eastern this Friday. I'm going to blank him in his blank. So there you go. By the way, I won't know that I'm being blanked in my blank at the time that it happens, because Friday nights I'm on the air. I'm one of Paulie C's co-hosts, along with our friend Dan Randlett, on Retro Spectrum Radio with Paulie C, which is Friday nights from 7:30 to 10 p.m. So I won't know that all this is happening as it's happening, but very, very exciting. So, yes, the return of Crazy Joe. Apparently on Friday night, he will be stealing all of my fans, and then he will proceed to blank me in my blank. So I just can't believe it.
And he's making it sound like he's the nice guy.
I am a nice guy. But regardless, so that's what's happening there. How this man, by the way, I will just say this and then we'll move on. How he manages to get 30-day suspension after 30-day suspension from Facebook, but never actually quite gets kicked off entirely is beyond me. But that's all right. Let's see. Miriam Banish is in the chat room. Miriam is a top fan and says, good afternoon. Jenny, of course, in the chat room and says, shalom. Rocky Huber says, hey, Matt, I guess I'm here till Friday, till I get stolen away. I'll miss you, LMAO. Well, thank you. Yes. You'll be stolen away and I'll be blanked in my blank. It's going to be quite an evening, apparently. Melanie La Liberté is in the chat room. Hello, Melanie. She says, hello, all. Charles Richardson joins us. Charles Richardson from The Charles Richardson Show, which, of course, is available online at Raw Talk Online and on IPM Nation every Wednesday and Friday night from 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Hello, Charles. Dirk Don from Arrogant Media is in the chat room and says, Matt, I'm noticing some of my Arrogant Media fans were stolen. Well, they were probably stolen by Crazy Joe. I would be careful if I were you, Dirk. First he steals your fans and then he tries to blank you in your blank. So I would be on guard, my friend. Be very, very careful. Eazy-G Eric Gagnon is in the chat room and says, oh no, all by yourself. What will you do? LOL. Well, fortunately, the style of the show that I do lends itself to, there are certain radio formats that you can do with other people or all by yourself. And political talk radio is one of them. Sports talk is another example. A lot of sports talk hosts, many of them, they have co-hosts. They'll be duos or trios, and sometimes they're all alone, So it's that actually, when I started this show, I originally started Matt Connarton Unleashed as a podcast a little over a decade ago. And part of why I started the show was I wanted something that I could do by myself if I had to. Because, I had always listened to a lot of political talk radio, and, all the big political talk radio show hosts, they're many of them, they do their shows by themselves. They're very good at monologuing and so on. So I kind of learned to do that. And I love having that flexibility. So, we have a sort of a rotating group of people who come and go. And, Jenny usually comes in with me on Mondays, and sometimes she'll come in another day during the week. And we have other people like Eazy-G. Let me know, Eric, if you're coming in tomorrow. Eazy-G comes in on Thursdays for his entertainment report, et cetera. We have quite the group of people, but if I have to be here alone, that's fine too. I'm never really alone. I have all of you. So there you go. Melanie says New Hampshire is an upside down Vermont. Oh, that's true. Texas Mike says, so excited to have you meet my meme on Friday before the show. Absolutely. And she's excited too. I have no doubt. Michael Albert responds, Vermont is actually an upside down New Hampshire. Yeah, so there, Melanie. Let's see. Eazy-G says, I can't wait to see Texas Mike's meme. Oh. Why, you kind of interested in her? Shannon McGuire is in the chat room. Shannon says, hello, everyone. Charles Richardson says, is there a certain crazy-ass clown that's back? Well, did he ever really leave?
I came out here reasonable, intelligent, level-headed.
And let's see, I just want to make sure we don't miss anybody in here, and then we'll get into some stuff. Tom Blanchard is in the chat room. Hello, Tom. And, Fred Boenig is in the chat room. Haven't seen Fred in there for a while. Haven't heard from Fred in there for a while. Feel free to call Fred. Fred says, you're not alone. You're by yourself. Right, that is an important difference. There's that song. Who does that song? That all by myself. It's a terrible song. Who even wants to even think about that? My goodness. But anyway, we'll get into some stuff, but let me give the numbers again. If you'd like to join us, 603-250-6007. Oh, and we have a call. Hi, welcome to Matt Connarton Unleashed. Who's this?
Oh, this is the other bad guy in Joe's life.
Oh, is this Charles Richardson of the Charles Richardson Show?
So I have to come out real quick and apologize to you, Jenny, and DJ Reckless.
Oh, Christian Lacoste.
Reluctantly, after we had that great interaction about Joe,
yes,
actually went ahead and befriended him on Facebook.
Okay.
Let me tell you something. At all the PM messages that he has, there was a ton of them.
Yeah.
You could not imagine how many times you were mentioned, how many times I was sexy.
Oh.
And how many times that he could kiss me or just seriously, you need to take this blank in the blank seriously, because I really think he does.
Well,
I'm just saying.
Well, that's
just
I think it's just how he talks. I don't know if you're.
I don't think so, man.
Well, I don't know if
I
you're.
don't think so. I'm really scared. I mean, because I really think he is that type of person that would do that.
Well,
I don't think he's straight.
I mean, I don't care if he is or not. I certainly wouldn't consent to anything with him or with any man, myself being heterosexual, but, I make no judgments about that. But I think it's just the way that he talks, because I don't know if you know this about him, Charles, but he's a real New Yorker. I mean, just ask him.
He is.
He's a real New Yorker.
He's a real New Yorker. That's why he wants to stay in the closet. And just because when we talked, I mean, that one time, I think at the end, he called me a beautiful man or something like that. And I told him, like, I'm 340 pounds, so how can I be beautiful? Oh, I didn't know you were that big. It just, the real, it just really was weird. And then at the very end of, I think, our 1 week long relationship as being Facebook friends, he goes ahead and said, "You tell Matt I'm coming for him." I said, "Listen, I can't endorse that.
Yeah.
So you have the right to speak your opinions, but I can't endorse that because if you do, I think we just no longer be friends."
That's right.
We can't do this because, I thought we came to some understanding.
Well,
and he said, "Okay, fine, I'm done." And he immediately blocked me. So it's like,
yeah,
he doesn't learn his lesson.
No.
Never will, I think. I think it's come to the point where this is going to be a continuous 30-day ban every, 32 days.
How does he get away with it, though?
32 ban. I really do. So I think, honestly, I'd promote the hell out of the Crazy Joe Show, 9 p.m. on Friday, because it's going to be the last time you hear from him in a month.
Yeah, because he'll get banned again. Yeah. But isn't it amazing, though? Like, they ban him. They keep banning him for 30 days, but they leave up most of his videos. And they, and then he always gets to come back for a while until he gets banned again. Like, why the Dog and Pony Show? Why not just ban him? And I'm not even a big deplatforming guy. I just don't understand why they're so nice to him.
The reason I think it is because he is a real New Yorker, and I bet you he threatened Facebook to blank them in the blank, and that's why they need to leave him on.
That could be. Actually, Virtual Crazy Joe has something to say about that.
New Yorkers know the truth.
Oh, that's what it is. New Yorkers know the truth.
Yeah. See, I wish every day I was a New Yorker. I wish every day that I could be born again New Yorker.
Don't we all?
You know what I'm saying?
Don't we all?
Because Crazy Joe has found the light, and I want to be in the light with Crazy Joe, just not in a sexual way. Just stay away from me.
A true New Yorker like me, I don't need nobody to back me up.
Yeah, he's a true New Yorker. Yeah.
Anyway, I thought I'd go ahead and chime in and give my 10 cents.
Well, I appreciate that, Charles, and please go ahead and give your show a plug.
Yeah, the Charles Richardson Show, IPMNation.com. Every Wednesday and Friday night, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern Time. It is uncensored for all you people that get butthurt very easily. That probably been tagged by Joe. Please do not listen because you will probably be you'll probably be offended. So
yes.
But yeah, there's some words on there that can't be said on FM.
Right.
Please be aware of that.
Right. Very good. Very good. All right, Charles. I always appreciate the call, my friend.
Thank you.
All right, you got it, man. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Yeah. All right. Charles Richardson. Yeah. Charles really stepped up and came out swinging when Crazy Joe first started coming after us. And Charles was not having it. Let's see. Fred shared that. It was Celine Dion. That's who I was thinking of. All by myself. Oh, boy. Wayne Noel is a top fan all the way from Michigan and joins us in the chat room. Miriam Banish says Crazy Joe burns bridges. Let's see. Michael Albert says, I think if you get 3 30-day bans within 6 months, they restrict your account. The thing about Facebook is that they set it up to be where there's nowhere and no one to complain to. Yeah, that's true. It's not like there's a customer service number you can call. Hello to William Brierly, who I see is in the Facebook live chat. Hello, that's a new name in there. 603-250-6007 if you'd like to give us a call today. 603-250-6007. You can also text us at 617-917-4476. Tweet me at Matt Connarton or send an email to matt@mattconnerton.com. And, of course, you can interact in the Facebook live chat, but I'd love you to call me at 603-250-6007. Something I shared out earlier, I'm not sure if this is the same article or a different version of the article, but this is from rawstory.com, and it regards, of course, this is it's always on my mind. There's another song, You Were Always on My Mind. It's always on my mind, of course, COVID-19. The issue that it is that continues to persist and is not going away as numbers are out of control. And it has truly become a pandemic of the unvaccinated. In fact, Shannon McGuire, by the way, thank you again, Shannon. She sent me a video on Facebook earlier of a TikTok video of Michael Rappaport, the actor, and, he's done some other things too. He was with Barstool Sports for a while. That was an interesting drama there. He got fired from Barstool. But he also is a frequent caller into the Howard Stern show. He likes to pick fights with Gary Delabate, Baba Booey, and whatnot. And Shannon forwarded me a video of Michael Rappaport TikTok about unvaccinated people, and he has some choice words for their choices. But this has been particularly a big issue this week because as the COVID-19 pandemic is exploding in certain parts of the country, and by certain parts, I mean the South, because, a lot of anti-vaxxers, anti-science type people. And so people are getting hospitalized, intensive care units are filling up again. And then we had a couple days ago on the show on Monday, I lost a lifelong friend, which does bother me actually, but there's nothing I can do about it. Mark from Texas who called. He and I went to high school together. It was after we had that blow up too. I was thinking about the time that he helped me move and, just a lot of great memories there. But, Mark is gone off into crazy town with all the conspiracy theories. I don't know if he's a QAnon follower, wouldn't surprise me, but, he's a COVID denier. He called and was talking about how it's just a cold. And if you're a longtime listener or a regular listener, you know how I feel about that and how I think that's incredibly disrespectful to the 600,000 families that have lost someone, all the healthcare workers who have worked themselves, worn themselves out, trying to keep the rest of us from dying and so on. And we're seeing a new development this week. Fox News seems to be making more of an attempt, except for Tucker Carlson and Laura Ingraham, of course. They're hardcore anti-vaxxers, although they probably have been vaccinated because they probably have to be to go into Fox and do their shows, and we'll come back to that later. But Sean Hannity the other night kind of went out of his way to say, please get vaccinated, please take this seriously. On Fox and Friends, that's one of the few shows, even though I think, there are three intellectual midgets, if we can use that term anymore, on Fox and Friends. They have been, pushing the idea that it's good to get vaccinated to varying degrees among the three of them. Steve Doocy was pretty emphatic about it the other day. But so this has all been on my mind quite a bit. And like I said to Mike Sutterth yesterday on the show, thank God we're in the Northeast, because I feel very safe here. I was fully vaccinated by the end of April, and I was pretty happy about it, as you might remember. Fred Boenig in the chat says, you mean MAGA supporters in the South? Now Hannity is out telling folks to tell folks to get their vaccine. Michael Albert says, Laura Ingraham is the worst hypocrite from way back in her radio days. Yeah, she's pretty disappointing. She's a breast cancer survivor too, so she should be, I assume, she's considered immunocompromised. You would think that she would see getting vaccinated as important. But this is from rawstory.com. Doctor reveals what she tells dying COVID patients who beg for a vaccine after thinking the pandemic was a hoax. So in other words, people who go around believing. Michael Albert says New Hampshire still has only 57.8 fully vaccinated, 57.8%. Is that true? I thought our number was better than that. I thought it was much better than that. Really? Well, we have a call. Let's grab this call, and then we'll look at this article. Hi, welcome to Matt Connarton Unleashed. Who's this?
Hey, it's Eazy-G.
Yes, Eazy-G.
Yeah, it should be all set for tomorrow. If something falls apart, I'll let you know, but looking good to come into the studio tomorrow.
Well, very good. Well, we're looking forward to having you here.
Yeah, it's funny because it's like a train wreck every night. But the Clyde Lewis guy, I want to repeat what he was saying about COVID last night.
No, I can
But
only
it
imagine.
is funny. Seems like a lot of people that call the show, like you were saying the other day, always seem to agree with that guy.
Who agrees with that guy?
Clyde Lewis. Very rarely, as it gets a phone call with a guy. The guy says, whatever you're saying on the radio is wrong and you're crazy.
Oh, right,
and,
right.
Speaking about crazy people,
yeah.
he's definitely top of my list.
Right. So you're talking about what I talk about, how the basic business model of most, not all to be fair, but most conservative talk radio is you have a conservative talk show host who only takes calls from conservative callers, only talks to conservative guests, and it's this big exercise in groupthink, and everyone
I think
agreeing with each other.
His whole aspect of the show is scare the living believes out of you. But it's always talking about end of the world and COVID, and we're only got a few years to live. And then he goes to his commercials and make sure you pick up my food buckets. That's what I think it's all about.
Of course, it's a grift. These people are grifters. Of course, that's what the food buckets are all. The whole marketing campaign, whether it's Clyde Lewis or Jim Baker or any of these other yahoos with their food buckets, the actual marketing doesn't even make sense. You need the food bucket.
Of course not.
You need the food bucket for when the rapture happens. But in theory,
actually, for him, it's not really the rapture. He says,
well,
what
whatever.
happens if you folks run out of food and you don't know what to do? And got to buy my food buckets. They're good for 35 years.
Well, a lot of them though, his
gimmick is not really the rapture.
Well,
it's just what are you going to do if you run out of food?
But if in theory though, if you're one of the quote unquote good people, God's going to save you anyway. You're going to get swept up when the end of the world happens. So why would you need the food bucket? So it doesn't make sense.
The guy is definitely crazy when it comes to anything with the government. He's against
of course.
Government telling you what to do and blah, blah, blah. And oh, my God, the guy's nuts.
Well, that's the thing. We've seen this. I was talking about it yesterday. We've seen over the years this melding of conservatism and conspiracy theorism. And
he's definitely a conspiracy theory.
Of course.
Oh, my God, yes, he is.
Of course, absolutely.
Yes, and speaking of another guy on my list that's crazy is that former President Donald Trump.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you heard that yesterday. Another one of his persons that he associated with, like he said years ago, he said, I'm going to surround myself with the best people available. But I believe now it's the 9th person that got arrested yesterday that was part of his campaign.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he has a very interesting approach to draining the swamp. He just replaces it with his own swamp,
all his friends are a bunch of crooks. I'm beginning to believe that he's one, too.
Oh, are you? Yes. Well, yeah. I'd say that's a good bet. I'd say, yeah. I'd say he's definitely a con man. Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
no doubt about it.
Hey, he conned 75 million people into voting for him in 2020, so he's pretty good at it.
Yeah, and I know the Tom Brady and the Patriots made it to the White House yesterday, but I don't think there was hamburgers and cheeseburgers and hot dogs like the Trump liked to give all the athletes.
Well, yeah, but let's not bury the lead. What happened when Tom Brady went to the White House is he was joking with Biden, saying, some people don't believe, what did he say? Some people don't believe we really won the Super Bowl.
Right.
Or something, poking fun at Trump. That was great. Especially since I thought...
Oh, yeah, he can't stand the guy.
I thought everyone assumed that Tom Brady is a big Trump guy. Didn't he have a MAGA hat at one point?
I think his coach was Belichick.
Oh, is that what it is? Belichick's a Trump guy?
Yep.
Well, maybe Tom Brady was too at one point and then saw what happened on January 6th and said, I want nothing further to do with this. I mean, we have listeners who feel that way. Yeah.
I don't know if you know that his wife is she does the tarot cards and thinks she knows the future, and she's like from what somebody told me, she's like a witch.
Oh, Giselle?
Yeah, she thinks she can see the future.
I've heard that.
Yeah, I was very surprised to hear that. A friend of mine told me that years ago.
Maybe she can see the future.
Yeah.
Maybe she could see your future.
But it's funny, though. As much money as Tom Brady got, she has more money.
Oh, yeah. Well, they're both,
Yeah, she's a bag. I don't think she's retired supermodel, but she made a ton of money over the years.
Yes. Very, very successful. That is part of being a model, yes.
Yeah. Well, she's one of the top models in in the country. All right, well, we'll see you tomorrow around 4 o'clock, and if something falls apart, I'll let you know.
All right. Thank you so much, Eazy-G. We'll see you tomorrow.
Talk to you later.
All right, bye-bye. All right. Eazy-G Eric Gagnon, our entertainment reporter, who will be here tomorrow with his entertainment report. Hopefully he can stay awake. You know, last Thursday, that was a little bit of an issue. Yeah, Michael Albert says regarding vaccinations, vax rates in the northern counties are pretty bad. Well, that doesn't surprise me, actually, that in the north country of New Hampshire, where, you know, it's a little more rural, shall we say, some close families and so forth, not everyone's going to be into science. Fred says, so if Trump told Woodward on February 7th, 2020, it was airborne, referring to the virus, and more deadly than the flu, when exactly did Trump tell Hannity, who he talks to every night? When did Hannity tell Mark Levin or Tucker Carlson? Miriam said, I heard 65%. I thought New Hampshire was over 70% at this point. Well, perhaps I'm wrong. Well, I do know that I'm fully vaxxed. And as I always say on the show, my strong preference would be that the entire country would get vaccinated and we could get herd immunity and finally put this thing to bed. But since that is clearly not on the menu, because we do have such a large population of anti-science, anti-vaxxer people, I'll take the next best thing. And the next best thing is those of us who are smart enough to protect ourselves and those around us have the option to do so. And as far as everybody else, well, at some point, Darwin kind of kicks in, I guess. Now, Fred just shared an interesting link from Newsweek. Oh, what Tom Brady has said about his friendship with Donald Trump. This is what we were just talking about. Yeah, because like I said to Eric, when Brady was at the White House the other day, you know, he was kidding around with the President Biden. You know, not everyone believes we won the Super Bowl, which was a little bit of a jab at Trump and his supporters. So it says here, Tom Brady's thinly veiled swipe at Donald Trump's claims of fraud in the 2020 presidential election raised eyebrows on Tuesday. Okay, so this was yesterday. Not least because the athlete and former president have long been known to be friends. As Tampa Bay Buccaneers quarterback Tom Brady, 43, and his teammates visited the White House following their Super Bowl win, the sportsman joked about people not believing the Bucs' victory, alluding to, by the way, did I make a mistake earlier and say the Patriots' victory? I may have done that. I'm not a football guy. What do you want from me? The sportsman joked about people not believing the Bucs, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers' victory, alluding to fraudulent claims that President Joe Biden was not the legitimate winner over Trump. Brady said while discussing his team's Super Bowl win on February 7, quote, "We found our rhythm. We got on a roll. Not a lot of people think we could have won. In fact, I think about 40% of the people still don't think we won," unquote. Brady went on to make another joke about Biden and those that referred to him as Sleepy Joe, a name Trump repeatedly called his political opponent. Brady said, quote, "We had a game in Chicago where I forgot what down it was. I lost track of one down in 21 years of playing, and they started calling me Sleepy Tom. Why would they do that to me?" Unquote. With Trump currently suspended from Twitter, there has been no opportunity for his committed followers and detractors alike to read any off-the-cuff reactions to Brady's jibes from the man himself. However, it was well documented over the years that Brady and Trump have been firm friends since first meeting in 2001 when the real estate mogul asked the footballer to judge a Miss USA competition. Brady told Howard Stern, I remember hearing this in an interview in 2020, quote, "He became someone who would come up to our games and stand on the sidelines and would cheer for the Patriots. He always had a way of connecting with people and still does," unquote. Such was Trump's admiration for Brady that even hoped the star would get together with his then unmarried daughter, Ivanka Trump. I'm going to kind of skip down a little bit. Let's see. When Trump ran for president against Hillary in 2015, Brady's support appeared to be unwavering, with the signature Make America Great Again cap was seen in the football star's locker during his time with the New England Patriots. In September 2015, an ESPN reporter asked Brady, quote, He's a guy who likes winning like you. You think he's got what it takes? And Brady responded, quote, I hope so. That would be great. There would be a putting green on the White House lawn. I'm sure of that, unquote. Let's see. Kind of skipping down a little bit here. There's a lot in here about all the positive things that Brady has said about Trump over the years. During his 2020 interview with Howard, Brady admitted that he grew increasingly uncomfortable with the way his relationship was scrutinized. Quote, then when the political aspect came, and I think I got brought into a lot of these things because it was so polarizing around election time, it was uncomfortable for me because you can't undo things. Not that I would undo a friendship, but political support is a lot different than the support of a friend, unquote. Revealing that he declined an invitation from Trump to appear at the Republican National Convention in 2016, Brady added, quote, he wanted me to speak at that convention too, and I wasn't going to do anything political, unquote. While he was invited to the White House by Trump and former President Barack Obama to mark the Patriots' Super Bowl wins in 2015, 17, and 19, Brady opted not to attend. Before returning on Tuesday, Brady's last accepted invitation to the White House was in 2005 when George W. Bush was president. Okay. So, I mean, it sounds to me like Tom Brady wants to keep the political separate from the friendship is sort of how I take that. But let's see. Oh, Stacey Lawton is in the chat room and says, hey, Matt, I got big news. Miriam Banish is a top fan, says, I hope they don't take anyone who has a good reason for not getting vaccinated with them. The kids under 12 or anaphylaxis with vaccines in the past. Michael Albert says, state by state. Oh, is there a link there? Oh, Stacey says, my live show is back after over 15 months of no live on location with local and federal politicians. Oh, very nice. All right, so I want to look at, oh, Michael Albert says there's a link in the, I'm not seeing the link, Michael Albert, but sometimes the browser is weird. If you want to private message me that, unless you already did, that might work better. Sometimes links don't show up in the chat room, at least on my end. With the browser that I'm using, Facebook is like that. Oh, now my Messenger won't even open. It's Facebook. Well, let's look at this. So getting back to the article, doctor reveals what she tells dying COVID patients who beg for a vaccine after thinking the pandemic was a hoax. An Alabama doctor has revealed heartbreaking details about her recent conversations with patients dying from COVID-19 amid a surge in cases caused by the Delta variant in the state, with the lowest vaccination rate in the nation. Dr. Brittany Kobia wrote in a Facebook post on Sunday, quote, I'm admitting young, healthy people to the hospital with very serious COVID. One of the last things they do before they're intubated is beg me for the vaccine. I hold their hand and tell them that I'm sorry, but it's too late. A few days later, when I call time of death, because, by the way, if you don't know that, once you're intubated, once you go on a ventilator, statistically, you're probably about to die. That's just the way it is. So that's why, you really want to avoid that. A few days later, when I call time of death, I hug their family members and tell them the best way to honor their loved one is to get vaccinated and encourage everyone they know to do the same. They cry and they tell me they didn't know. They thought it was a hoax. They thought it was political. They thought because they had a certain blood type or a certain skin color, they wouldn't get as sick. They thought it was, quote, just the flu, but they were wrong. And they wish they could go back, but they can't. So they thank me and they go get the vaccine. And I go back to my office, write their death note, and say a small prayer that this loss will save more lives, unquote. Cobia said all but one of her current patients did not receive the vaccine, and the one who received it expected to recover. AL.com reports that Cobia and other doctors, quote, worked themselves to the bone, unquote, in the early part of the pandemic when the vaccine wasn't available, during a period she described as, quote, tragedy after tragedy after tragedy, unquote. Now, I want to stop on that for a moment because, again, not to keep harping on it, but, you know, if you heard what happened on Monday with, I guess now my former friend, Mark from Texas, you know, who called the show and talked about how, you know, none of these mitigation steps were necessary for what he called, quote, just a cold. Again, this is an example of why that is so offensive to me and why whenever someone tries to dismiss COVID as just a bad cold or just the flu or spreads lies. Mark didn't say this, but I hear others say this. Well, you know, the flu kills more people a year than COVID does, which is simply not true. I don't know if there's even an alternate universe where that's true. You know, there is no such thing as a cold that kills more than 500,000 Americans within a 1 year span of time. That's not a thing. So COVID is very different, very different. But what I always say is whenever someone says something stupid, like what Mark was saying, like what any other COVID denier says, or people who aren't even necessarily deniers, but they still, you know what I've actually heard a few people say too is, well, I don't know what the big deal is. I had COVID and it wasn't that bad for me, which is like, I mean, talk about narcissism to the extreme. Oh, it wasn't a big deal for me. What's the problem? It's like, well, it may not have been a big deal for you. You might have had mild symptoms, but it's a very big deal for other people, especially the ones who ended up, you know, dead. But, you know, as empathy continues to die a long, slow death in our culture, I have heard people say things like that. It's like, oh, my God. Oh, well, I'm glad you're at least, you know, you're not denying that COVID is real, but it wasn't a big deal for you, huh? Okay, well, good. I'm sure that's, I'm glad you survived and you're fine. I'm sure that's great comfort to all the people who have, you know, dead people in their families. Anyway, but what this doctor says here about, you know, tragedy after tragedy after tragedy, you know, working herself to the bone, dealing with COVID, that is, you know, what I said Monday, and I repeated it on Tuesday, and I'll say it again here. Whenever I hear a COVID denier dismiss it as not a big deal, that to me is a giant middle finger in the air to not only all the families of people who didn't make it, and of course everyone who had COVID and is still suffering long haul COVID, you know, the long haul impacts of it, but it's also a giant middle finger in the air to every single healthcare worker in this country. Can you imagine what it must be like to work in healthcare and suddenly find yourself working 7 days a week, 16 hours a day, just way past the point of exhaustion, and you're dealing with death after death after death, and what that must do to you, the physical exhaustion, the physical peril that you're in, being on the front lines of this, but also the mental and emotional fatigue. And can you imagine what a mind effing it must be to be on the front lines of this and deal with that? Just one person after another just dying. An intensive care unit full of people on ventilators dying. Because again, and I'm sensitive to this as someone with asthma, if you end up on a ventilator with COVID, there's a very good chance you're at the end of the road. So, you know, I really feel for these, for medical professionals who've had to deal with this. And not only deal with their jobs, but putting themselves at risk in the process. With the big masks and the gloves and the goggles and all day, every day. You know, and then to hear that jerk on Monday say, oh, all this for just a cold. I would dare him to look some family in their faces who've lost someone to COVID. Or I would dare him to look in the family of a healthcare worker who has spent the last year and a half dealing with this every day. Look them in the eyes and tell them, what? What's the problem? It's just a cold. Unreal. So Kobia also said, quote, you know, so many people that did all the right things and yet still came in and were critically ill and died. It's different mentally and emotionally to care for someone who could have prevented their disease but chose not to. You kind of go into it thinking, okay, I'm not going to feel bad for this person because they make their own choice. But then you actually see them face to face, and it really changes your whole perspective because they're still a person that thinks that they made the best decision that they could with the information that they have and all the misinformation that's out there. And now all you really see is their fear and their regret. And even though I may walk into the room thinking, okay, this is your fault, you did this to yourself, when I leave the room, I just see a person that's really suffering. And that is so regretful for the choice that they made, unquote. She compared the current surge to October and November, just before Alabama experienced its December peak. And she was, quote, signing 10 death certificates a day, unquote. She added that she fears impending doom as children go back to school, with 70% of Alabama's population unvaccinated. Kobia herself contracted COVID-19 last July despite taking every precaution, but experienced only mild symptoms. She got vaccinated as soon as possible, even though she was breastfeeding at the time, after consulting with her primary doctor and her OBGYN. Quote, I try to be very non-judgmental when I'm getting a new COVID patient that's unvaccinated, but I really just started asking them, why haven't you gotten the vaccine? And I'll just ask it point blank in the least judgmental way possible. And most of them, they're very honest. They give me answers. I talked to this person. I saw this thing on Facebook. I got this email. I saw this on the news. You know, these are all the reasons that I didn't get vaccinated. And the one question that I always ask them is, did you make an appointment with your primary care doctor and ask them for their opinion on whether or not you should receive the vaccine? And so far, nobody has answered yes to that question, unquote. Well, what can you do? I mean, this isn't ending anytime soon. And you know, as I've said, I'm just grateful that all of us who are smart enough to take this seriously are able to at least protect ourselves. And by the way, I mean, you know, being vaccinated doesn't mean that you're not going to get COVID. In fact, we don't know really the numbers of vaccinated people who may have breakthrough infections. However, having said that, the great news is, as awful as this Delta variant is, it does appear that the vaccines are still very good at preventing you from getting very sick if you even experience any symptoms at all. And you could have the Delta variant. So the vaccines are holding up. They're holding up really well. But you've got a lot of people in the South who are just it's you know, you can't save everyone. And my fear is that it doesn't matter to a lot of these people how many people die, how many people end up in the ICU. They're committed. I mean, a lot of it is ideology, right? You know, oh, the government says I'm supposed to do this, so I have to assume that that it's bad. Or, you know, they saw a YouTube video or a Facebook post and they honestly believe with all of their heart that if they get vaccinated, that Bill Gates is going to be able to track them, or George Soros is going to be able to recruit them into some sort of pedophile sex cult, or, whatever it is these people believe. And Tucker Carlson gets big ratings. And while some on Fox News have pivoted a bit on this, like Sean Hannity, probably because they're getting worried about getting sued, Tucker Carlson and Laura Ingraham continue to be hardcore anti-vaxxers. And some of these people really trust what they have to say. So, I try to kind of put myself, I read that article and what this doctor is talking about, how, she goes in there kind of with this idea in her head that, it is their own fault, these unvaccinated patients who now have COVID. But then once she's face to face with them, she remembers that, this is a human being, and, and she can't judge them. Her job is to treat them and try to help them get better, but not to be judgmental. And I wonder if in that same situation, I would have it in me to, I'm a pretty empathetic person. I think I probably would experience something similar in that situation, where I would be face to face with the person. And even though I may think, well, they're an idiot, they should have just gotten vaccinated. I probably, my empathy would take over, and I probably would just, look at it like you should if you're a healthcare professional, right? I'd probably say, okay, well, I'm not here to judge. I'm here to help. But looking at it from the outside, I have no sympathy for these people. Not to sound cold, but, it's like the analogy I used the other day is I have no more sympathy for these people than I would say for someone who gets drunk and gets into a car, and then they're driving while drunk and they drive into a tree and kill themselves. It's like, well, you chose that. Now you're dead. That's kind of my feeling. I have a pretty, I might not feel quite so cold about it if it wasn't for the fact that, as the doctor mentioned in the article, it's going to be a really bad scene in the fall when the kids go back, because they're not able to be vaccinated yet. And, we could have just, we could have gotten rid of this by now, but we, as a country, we just can't, because it's too many anti-vaxxers. Let's see. I think that on that somber and discouraging note, we'll take a break, and we will be back. I'll play a couple quick things, and we will show some love to our sponsors, and because we got to pay the bills, and then we'll be back with hour number 2, numero dos of Matt Connarton Unleashed. Don't anybody go away. Plenty more to come.
I was sweaty. My nerves were shot. I was going to have a nervous breakdown at any moment.
Welcome back, everybody. We are into hour number 2, numero dos of Matt Connarton Unleashed, and we are live from the studios of WMNH 95.3 FM in glorious downtown Manchester, New Hampshire. Also on Comcast 97 if you're in Manchester, streaming everywhere at WMNHradio.org and on the Facebook on the Matt Connarton Unleashed Facebook page. And you can also go to my website, mattconnerton.com, for all of your live streaming options and social media links and contact info, etc., etc. Hello to our friends at Raw Talk Online. Today is Wednesday, July 21, 2000. 21. I do want to remind you, of course, that we are proudly sponsored by the Hop Knot in the Brady Sullivan right across the street, where you can get your delicious gourmet pretzels and craft beer and wine. And you can see Grant Lampton performing live there every Friday night. They've got all kinds of events coming up this summer, and such a wonderful family that owns and operates it, and we're very honored and privileged to have that association with them. Please continue to support our amazing sponsor, the Hop Knot. If you would like to join us today, 603-250-6007 is the number to call. 603-250-6007. You can also text me at 617-917-4476. Tweet me at Matt Connarton or send an email to matt@mattconnerton.com. And, of course, you can interact and opine in the Facebook live chat, but I would love to hear your dulcet tones at 603-250-6007. Also, a quick programming note tonight, immediately following this program here at WMNH 95.3 is a live edition of Off the Mark Sports with Kyle Heavey. So that will be coming up live at 6 p.m. immediately following this program. I do want to move on to something else from the first hour, but there are some great Facebook live comments in here, so I do want to take a look at these. We were talking about COVID-19 and the unvaccinated and the status of the pandemic. Michael Albers says, what if this is a disease that only afflicts diehard MAGAs? Is that so bad? Someone who asks for a vaccine after they're already sick just displays that they truly don't know how vaccines work. Well, yeah, that's a great point. But also, too, I think in that moment, there's a desperation there, of course. Miriam asks, do they actually consider themselves good people? How can they be so uncaring and still think of themselves as good people? I'm sick of their crap. Michael Albert says, what's the problem? It only affects people who are stupid about getting a vaccine that can prevent it. Tom Blanchard says, and again, I think this is in reference to what I was saying earlier about Mark's comment on Monday. Tell it to my brother. Oh, wait, you can't because he's dead. Because he, died of COVID, obviously. Michael Albert says, the real irony is that the one victory that Trump can claim is that is inarguable, is Operation Warp Speed, yet his supporters are against taking advantage of the vaccine. Oh, yeah. And we saw that, Michael. We saw that dynamic play out at the last CPAC event, where here within the same event, you've got people like that idiot Lauren Boebert getting up there and saying, I'm not going to take, when they come to my door, I'm going to say, I don't want your Fauci ouchie, and they applaud for that. Somebody else, I forget who it was talking about how, the president set a goal for 70% of the country vaccinated by July 4th, and the country missed the goal, and the room erupts in applause. It's like the Republicans have become the pro-COVID party, right? They were actually applauding. If you don't believe me, you can find it on YouTube. They were applauding. They were cheering the fact that we didn't get enough people vaccinated by July 4th. But meanwhile, at that same event, Trump gets up and he gives his speech. And one of the things he takes credit for in his speech is Operation Warp Speed and facilitating getting the manufacturing and the development of the vaccines off the ground. He takes credit for that. This very same thing that all these people in this room are cheering against. Then their Messiah gets up and takes credit for this very thing. And I keep wondering, does anybody in that room, does it even enter their mind, wait a minute, these are competing ideas here. Our Messiah, our great leader, is taking credit for something that we're against because it involves science, and we hate science, and we're okay with people dying, and who cares because most of us are sociopaths. But wait a minute, but he's taking credit. Oh no, well, what do we do? But does anyone in that room even have the self-awareness to, where that's going to occur to them? Of course not. So, they cheer for Trump and whatever he says and whatever he wants to take credit for. And they cheer for somebody poor-mouthing the vaccines and saying, no, I'm not going to take the Fauci ouchie. And then everybody's like, yay, yeah. I mean, it's incredible. And that's why I say, too, you know, if Trump, I mean, I know he's made comments here and there in interviews, but what Trump needs to do, Trump could save potentially millions of lives if he would go on a big press tour, try to go on all the shows. I'm sure he can get booked. He's a former president, and say, look, and he can take all the credit he wants to. He can take all the credit he wants to. I don't care if he goes on a show and actually claims that he personally was in the lab developing these vaccines himself. I don't care. I just want him to go on a big media offensive, go on every show he can possibly go on all the shows on Fox and say, please, everyone get vaccinated. It was all me. I alone created these vaccines. I made sure we have these vaccines. Now I want you to take them. And I guarantee you, almost every MAGA cultist in the country, 75 million of them, they would hear him say that and they would go, oh, Daddy wants us to get vaccinated. I guess we better get vaccinated. And we could save everybody. And we could finally put this pandemic behind us. But for some reason, he won't do it. He won't do it. Here's what he should do. He should do that. And then if he wants to, that can be his big jumping off point for his 2024 campaign, because we all know he's running and we all know he'll get the nomination. He is, as far as I'm concerned, he's already the presumptive Republican nominee for 2024, right? We're going to see a rematch, him versus Biden. So that could be the jumping off point. He should go on I can't believe I'm giving advice, not that, you know, well, Corey Lewandowski, he's a New Hampshire guy. Maybe he's listening. Maybe not after some of the things I've said about him, but hey, here's the strategy. I'm gonna give Donald Trump the strategy. Here it is. This is a winning strategy. It really is. Go on a major media offensive, say everybody get vaccinated, and then all of your disciples will, because they will do whatever you tell them to do. And then you turn around. Once that's done, you turn around and say, here, see? Here's what you do. I should work in politics. I actually would be good at it. So you do that, right? Then all of your disciples, they get vaccinated. Then you turn around and you say, see, Sleepy Joe, he couldn't get everyone vaccinated, but I came out and started talking about it and everybody got vaccinated. I should be the president again. Well, I already am the president, but I should be the president for real. And then he could potentially win in 2024. Not that I want that, but my God, let's save some lives here. It really would be that easy. Am I naive to think that it would be that easy? I don't think it would be that easy. I don't think I'm not being naive, rather. I think it would be that easy. He makes a big push. Everybody falls in line. Lives are saved. And he capitalizes on it. Simple. But he won't do it. I see no signals that he'll do that. So then again, he's a little distracted with legal issues, I suppose. But I'm glad you made that comment. Michael Albert says, I read about those microchips on Facebook on my mobile phone. Stacey Lawton says, I personally can't be vaccinated, but I still take precautions. I still wear my mask. I'm still staying home a lot as much as I can. I do go out more, but I keep my distance and I respect people's space. Well, I'm sorry to hear that you can't be vaccinated, Stacey. Wayne Noel says, in my opinion, it is not as simple of an answer as you are making it out to be. One size does not fit all. I disagree, Wayne. Look at what's happening in places where people aren't getting vaccinated. COVID is spreading like wildfire. Look at what's happening in places where people are getting vaccinated. COVID is not spreading nearly as much. So I think it's pretty cut and dry. I really do. I don't think there's anything complicated about it. Abigail Jem says, my brother just returned from California where he buried a friend who died of complications from COVID. He was 56. Rest in peace. Last night, we saw a group of men wearing I survived the Chinese flu T-shirts. So insulting. Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. Miriam Banish says, I have to say I was very heartened by two people who started off anti-vax changing their minds. Well, that's good. They're not all hopeless. Michael Albert says, I could not wait for my eligibility. I can't understand anyone else who didn't feel the same way. Oh, same here. Same here. I mean, I have asthma. And as a person with asthma, if I get COVID, there's a pretty good chance I'm going to end up on a ventilator in a hospital. And if I end up on a ventilator in a hospital, there's a very good chance I'm going to die. So, you know, I was pretty happy to get vaccinated. Jenny said, a small case may not give good immunity. The reason I had to have the chicken pox repeated before I started my first hospital job, I assume. Tom Blanchard said, tears right now just thinking about the whole thing went down. He was all alone. Oh, I assume, yeah, because Tom, as he mentioned earlier, he had a family member who died from COVID. Yeah, absolutely. But, you know, there's people like I shared out earlier, the article, Marjorie Taylor Greene, the video of her, you know, laughing when asked about people dying from COVID. I mean, it's just incredible. Let me give we will move on to something else, but let me give the numbers again. 603-250-6007, 603-250-6007. You can also text me at 617-917-4476. Tweet me at Matt Connarton or send an email to matt@mattconnerton.com. But best thing to do is give us a call, 603-250-6007. By the way, I don't know if anyone has noticed this. Anyone here in New Hampshire has noticed. I kind of think I did, but CNBC is reporting smoke from western wildfires is harming air quality on the East Coast. Some bullet points here. Wildfire smoke from Canada and the U.S. West spread across the country this week, creating haze-filled skies and unhealthy air quality as far away as New York and Pennsylvania. In recent days, more than 80 wildfires have burned nearly 1.3 million acres in the West, which is experiencing a historic climate change-fueled drought. The smoke was carried by the jet stream and cross-continental wind, triggering health alerts 1,000 miles away. By the way, I remember years ago, and this was probably a decade ago, but there was a year where I remember it so vividly. It was at the beginning of summer. It was Memorial Day, and I had to work. I was at that time I was working for FYE. And for those of you who, actually, they're back. I shouldn't even say for those of you who remember, because FYE is back. Another company bought them, and there's been new stores opening here in New Hampshire. But I remember waking up that morning and thinking that someone was barbecuing outside really early. And then I got outside, and I could see smoke in the air, and I realized it wasn't somebody barbecuing. And then I turned on the news in the car, and it turned out Canada was on fire. And then that smoke was being carried down into New Hampshire. But when I first woke up, I was like, wow, it's 8 a.m. and somebody's already barbecuing. It was very strange. Hi, welcome to Matt Connarton Unleashed. Who's this?
Hey, it's Eazy-G calling back.
Eazy-G, how are you?
Hey, not too bad. I'm going to be the first one to squash this rumor. Of course, you can't believe everything you read online, especially rumors about wrestling. There's a rumor going around that probably, I don't think it's true at all, that CM Punk is going to go work for AEW.
I'm
the first one to squash that he's all done. He's washed up.
What if you're wrong?
Oh, then I'll make it my face.
Yes, you will. It'll be a whole new scandal.
What's your opinion about that?
I'd love to see it. I haven't heard any of this.
Yeah, it's a rumor I saw today online.
I just Googled CM Punk. When I Google him, it comes up. Several outlets are reporting. Bleacher Report is reporting CM Punk rumors, former WWE star in contract talks for return to AEW. Well, I'd love to see it. I hope it happens.
I thought his problem was that he didn't like to do a lot of traveling.
Well, the thing is, though, a star of his magnitude, and there would be so much buzz around this, people would be so interested, that I'm sure he can negotiate a contract with AEW where first of all, their schedule is much lighter than the WWE schedule to begin with. So I'm sure.
Oh yeah, you're right.
I'm sure he could negotiate something that's not too taxing. Now I know you don't like when the older guys come back, Eazy-G, but I would love.
But he's not that old though, is he?
He's in his 40s. You tend to throw shade on anyone over 40 who comes back. But
yeah, well, he's not as old as that washed-up Goldberg.
No, that's true. Goldberg is 54.
He's getting a lot of blowback online about a lot of people saying he's too old and blank.
Hey, I have to tell you, though. So yesterday, I went, just for the hell of it, I went on YouTube and I found the clip of Goldberg on Monday night coming out to confront Bobby Lashley. And that crowd was very excited to see Goldberg, Eazy-G. They were into it.
Yeah, apparently, too, the critics are saying that Monday Night Raw is in the toilet, even with the live fans. They said the storylines are awful.
Yeah, they are. I mean, AEW to me is far more exciting than to me. WWE is very stale. It's just very stale.
Yeah, I saw that post about they've sold a lot of tickets for their show in New York.
AEW?
At the Tennis Avenue tennis place.
At the Arthur Ashe, what is it? Arthur Ashe Arena? Yeah. It's
right.
It keeps selling out, and what I mean when I say it keeps selling out is it sells out, but then they're able to release more seats.
Yeah, I heard too that the WWE had to cancel one of their super shows because they only sold like 1,000 tickets.
Yeah, AEW is where the buzz is right now. I mean, WWE is a huge company, and they have a lot of cash on hand, and they're not going anywhere. But AEW is people are interested in it.
Yeah, I wonder though if they do get sold in the near future, would that make them a better show, or would it still be the same old?
WWE, I think it'll be better.
Right.
I think it'll be better once Vince goes away, retires, whatever, because everything's.
Well, if he sells the company, that will probably be an avenue where they could be better storylines.
Yeah, I mean, creatively, it's the same show it was 20 years ago. But that's because a 75-year-old man is in charge of the show.
The thing about that is they tend. I don't watch them on that Raw anymore, but they tend to use the same people over and over. It's like SmackDown a while back. They had the Usos and the Rey Mysterio and his son there twice in the same night.
Yeah, it's just stale. It's repetitive. I mean, I haven't sat through an episode of Raw or SmackDown in probably at least 7, maybe 8 years. I don't know how.
Yeah, you're not missing much.
I don't know how anyone does it. I mean, I just like a lot.
But SmackDown is definitely the better show right now, though.
Like a lot of fans do. The only time I watch is if I happen to see something online, because I still kind of follow what's going on. Because I am still a fan, but if I happen to see chatter about a particular match or a particular segment that's interesting to me, I'll go and seek it out on YouTube. But other than that, I don't pay attention. I can't. It's. I
know. I know one of your favorites, the guy that likes to the Fiend there.
The Fiend, yes.
They seem to have buried the guy. You know, he hasn't been on TV for a long time, and they don't seem to tell the fans why he hasn't been around.
Yeah.
What's your opinion?
Yeah, he's been gone for a while. I don't know. I don't know if they don't want to overexpose him because he's such a unique character, maybe. He's one of the few characters Jenny and I have been really into. Like anything involving the Fiend we've been into, but I wasn't even, toward the end of this last run that he had, I wasn't even really paying much attention to the Fiend.
Yeah, I was just happy to see that the even though it probably won't last a while, but they took the belt off the Ric Flair's daughter, the Queen, and gave it to one of the new up and coming Nikki there. I know she probably won't hold it that long, and they gave she won that Money in the Bank, and then they gave the Money in the Bank for the Big E. He's been around for a while, and he deserves a push.
Yeah, but he has been around for a while. Again, it's stale.
That's the trouble with WWE. They bring back these very part timers, and then they get a big pub. They get a lot of fans, and then next thing you know, they're out the door.
I am intrigued, though. One thing they do have going that I'm intrigued by is John Cena coming back to challenge Roman Reigns at SummerSlam. I do want to see that. I want to see what they do with it.
Yeah, I read some information about that. They said right now his job is to make the other guy look good.
Yeah, well, of course.
He don't need to get belts anymore. He don't need any accolades. He's done everything in the business.
And he doesn't need to be risking injury either because he has movies to make.
Right. He's in the same. That's why I don't think you may see The Rock back in the ring, but it won't be to wrestle anymore because of his contract.
Well, Cena is now in the position that The Rock was in 10 years ago. It's the same thing, and I mean,
his job right now is to make the other guy look good.
Yeah, I mean, not on the same scale because The Rock has been and may even still be the highest paid actor in Hollywood. I mean, Cena's never going to get to that level just because so few people do get to that level. But I do think Cena has a burgeoning Hollywood career ahead of him, and he doesn't need to be getting injured. But
definitely.
Yeah.
Well, before you know it, he'll be out the door. So I think it's just going to be a summer thing.
But I'll tell you what, and I know Charles Richardson doesn't want to hear this because he called earlier, and he likes to be loyal to a particular promotion. But I think what AEW has going on is far more exciting with Kenny Omega as their champion, and I think AEW is a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, but they better be careful though. Then they'll end up like WCW by signing too many WWE stars. Look at that guy, Christian. He hasn't done much since he signed with them.
Well, actually, Jenny and I last night, we tried to watch, it wasn't on YouTube, but I found it on dailymotion.com, but there was a problem playing the video. We tried to watch Christian versus Matt Hardy because they just wrestled at an AEW pay-per-view. But I'll tell you, it was the most WWE-style match I've seen yet in AEW in terms of the formula and the predictability of it. And I was kind of like, the video kept glitching anyway, and I was finally like, forget it. We don't need to see the rest of this match.
Yeah. I think it's just difficult because the Monday Night Raw show is too long. If it was back to 2 hours, I think they'd make it better. They try to get all these matches, and some of them don't make any sense, and it's repetitive, and
yeah, that show was better at 2 hours, but the reason they went to 3...
I remember back in the day it was only an hour.
I remember when it was only an hour way back.
It was taped.
Way back. Yeah,
it was taped.
Yeah, way back.
I'll leave you with this. I don't know if you remember that time, what's his face there? The guy who said all the ladies... Oh, Rick Rude. When he was on WWE, because it was tape show that time, and he ended up showing up the same night in WCW, and they were live. Do you remember that?
I do. I remember that. I do remember that.
Rick Rude, yeah. I think he became part of the NWO, too. Who didn't, right?
Yes. And then he passed away. He's another...
Yeah, well, so many of those old wrestlers that have passed, mainly because of the steroids.
Yes. Yep. A lot of them.
Wild living, sex, drugs, and rock and roll.
That's right. But the steroids are what damages your internal organs and causes the early demise. Yeah, absolutely.
Look at Hogan now. He's all messed up.
Yeah, although Hogan didn't die young. I mean, he's still with us.
True, but it's saying his back's all messed up.
Yeah, well, he made a poor choice of a finishing move.
Well, there you go. All right, well, I'll let you go.
All right, Eazy-G, so we'll see you tomorrow. Oh, I think he's gone. All right, Eazy-G, Eric Gagnon leaves us, our entertainment reporter. I do hope CM Punk signs with AEW. If you'd like to give us a call, you can, 603-250-6007. Don't wait until the last minute, because at the end of the show today, we'll wrap up about 5 minutes early. I'll find something to play for the changeover, because immediately following us will be... Sorry, Dirk's comment was making me chuckle. Immediately following us will be Off the Mark Sports with the great Kyle Heavey live here from WMNH. But give us a call, 603-250-6007. Dirk Dunn from Arrogant Media said Hulk Hogan was still capable of body slamming Gawker. That's true. I mean, he essentially put them out of business, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, Hulk Hogan used to do the big leg drop across the neck of his opponent, and in multiple interviews I've seen over the years, he says, because he's had a ridiculous number of back surgeries, and he has said in many interviews that he regrets his finishing move. He think, because to do his move, he would jump up in the air and land on his butt, and he thinks that that is what damaged his back, doing that, over and over again. Just quickly, we're running out of time. I wish I had a 3-hour show. Just quickly, this is waiting for it to load. Okay, so Michael Alber, this is the link that I got from Michael Alber with percentages on people fully vaccinated. Alabama, these are in order. Oh, no, they're not in order. I'm sorry. They're in alphabetical order, but they're not in order by... unless I can change it. People fully... Oh, great. Okay, I was able to change it. I was able to put it in order. Okay, wonderful. So Alabama is at the bottom of the list with about 34%. I'm going to round these off as I just look at them. Mississippi is next with 34. Arkansas, 36. There's a pattern here, right? Anyway, let's see where we are. I want to see where New Hampshire is on this. Okay, so, the Northeast dominates the top here. So, now again, these numbers are lower than I would have expected because I thought there were parts of the country that were over 70% of fully vaccinated people, but I'm wrong about that, apparently. So Connecticut is number one. Connecticut at 62%. Again, I'm rounding. Rhode Island at 61%. Then you've got Puerto Rico and Guam. Puerto Rico's at 59 and Guam at 58. So they've gotten people vaccinated pretty well. Then you've got Maryland. So back to the Northeast. Maryland at 58. New Hampshire at 58. Okay, so New Hampshire, we've done well. Compared to the rest of the country, we've done very well. We're at 58%. New Jersey's at 57. And then we're not going to go through the whole list, but these southern, when you look at the bottom half of the list, it's all the southern states, as one would expect, and some Midwestern states. The Northeast has done well compared to the rest of the country. Maine is at 63. Did I mention Maine? Massachusetts at 63. Vermont at 67. Wait a minute. Oh, I wasn't at the top when I thought I was at the top. Okay. Connecticut's not at the top. I'm sorry. Vermont is at the top with 67. Then Massachusetts with 63. Maine 63. Connecticut 62. Rhode Island 61, New Hampshire 58. Okay. But yeah, the Northeast does dominate the top of the list. So there you go. So I'm glad I live in the Northeast. Thank you for sending me that, Michael Alber. Let's do, got a couple different things we could go with here, but I think I want to look at this, from reason.com. This jumped out at me. If you're a longtime listener, I talk a lot about criminal justice reform. I talk about ending the drug war. Reason put this up, one of my favorite sites. Only Biden or Congress can prevent 4,000 inmates from being forced back into federal prison post-COVID. The CARES Act allowed home release of nonviolent inmates during the pandemic, But after it's over, many will have to go back unless their sentences are commuted. Now, if you're a longtime listener, you also know I'm in favor of ending the drug war, and I don't think that we should be putting nonviolent drug offenders into federal prison, not only when it comes to cannabis, but really anything. If they're a nonviolent drug offender, I don't think they should be in federal prison. It says here, some 4,000 federal prisoners temporarily released during the pandemic will have to return to serve out their sentences once the emergency has ended, unless President Joe Biden commutes their sentences or Congress passes a new law, administration experts have determined. The New York Times reported Monday that after reviewing all of its options, the Biden administration has determined there's no current legal way for these released inmates to remain free on home confinement once a pandemic emergency is officially ended. They will have to return to prison a month after the federal emergency ends. These inmates were freed from prison under the 2020 Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act, or the CARES Act, passed into law during President Donald Trump's final year in March 2020. The CARES Act allows the Bureau of Prisons to extend the amount of time a prisoner may be placed on home confinement during an emergency that affects the prison system, and the COVID-19 pandemic certainly qualified. Because you can imagine, of course, how the pandemic spreads in prison. The authority ends when the emergency is formally ended. The Trump administration's Department of Justice sent out a memo in the last 4 days of his presidency. In the last days of his presidency, that any inmates who were released to home confinement under this authority will eventually have to return to prison. There's been a push by criminal justice reformers and civil rights activists to try to get Biden's DOJ to rescind this memo and allow these 4,000 inmates to remain in home confinement. But sources within the administration told the New York Times that the memo is correct. The BOP does not have the legal authority to just decide on its own that felons who have been sentenced to prison terms can continue to serve at home no matter how well they've behaved. There are two options. Either Congress can pass a law allowing these people to continue home confinement, or Biden can use his presidential clemency powers to commute their sentences. Biden is now being pushed by a coalition of 20 criminal justice reform activist groups to take action. They released a letter on Monday, and here is part of that letter. President Biden, we ask you to use your power of clemency to commute the sentences of people living in home confinement due to the CARES Act and prevent this impending crisis. We ask that you issue an order that contains a presumption that all people in home confinement under the CARES Act will have their sentences commuted unless the Bureau of Prisons can prove an articulable and current threat of violent harm. On the campaign trail and during your presidency, you have spoken about the importance of second chances. This is your opportunity to provide second chances to thousands of people who are already safely out of prison, reintegrating back into society, reconnecting with their loved ones, getting jobs, and going back to school. We urge you to provide clemency now to people under CARES Act home confinement. Okay, so that's from the letter. That's part of it. The letter is signed by organizations that straddle the political divide, from the familiar American Civil Liberties Union and NAACP to the more conservative Freedom Works and Right on Crime, as well as the libertarian R Street Institute. The Times notes people in Biden's camp are reluctant to pull off a mass commutation due to fears, quote, it could create political risks if the recipient who would otherwise be locked up commits a serious crime, unquote. By the way, that I can see that happening, where if someone who had their sentence commuted, I'm immediately thinking of how Willie Horton was. Remember Willie Horton, those of you who are old enough, how that was used against Mike Dukakis back in 1988 rather, how the Bush campaign used that against Michael Dukakis. Willie Horton he was out on furlough, killed somebody. He was black. A lot of people think that the advertising where they utilized this was racially tinged and were pretty upset about it. Lee Atwater, if I remember correctly, he was the one responsible for the ads. He said he later regretted it. He eventually died of a brain tumor. But I can see something like that happening where if Biden were to do this, and by the way, I do support this idea. I think this is a very good idea. But I can also see, in fairness, the political risk if Biden is to do this. And if something does go wrong and someone does something, someone commits a serious crime who did have their sentence commuted, it would get used against Biden in 2024. You know, Biden supports violent criminals or however they would spin it. So there is a legitimate reason to be concerned about the political risk, but I do support the idea. The letter notes it's been 16 months since the CARES Act was passed, and less than 1% of the people have violated the terms of their release. The Washington Post reported in June that only 5 of these people had committed new crimes. Holly Harris, president and executive director of the Justice Action Network, in a prepared statement said, quote, "The Biden administration can fix this, yet for months they've kept these 4,000 people and their families twisting in the wind, unable to fully connect with their families, find employment, and contribute to their communities. It's cruel, it's wasted tax dollars, and it doesn't make us any safer. It's time for President Biden to grant clemency to these men and women and keep them home," unquote. The resistance to act, despite Biden's campaigning on criminal justice reform, is not unlike his silence on capital punishment since getting elected. He campaigned on a newfound opposition to executions, but has remained quiet on the issue since actually getting elected. Attorney General Merrick Garland recently announced a moratorium on federal executions, but at the same time is submitting arguments to the Supreme Court to maintain the authority to seek the death penalty for capital crimes that they've prosecuted. The federal death penalty remains. They're just opting not to actually execute anybody for now. And by the way, so a side note about that, well, a couple actually. First of all, if you remember, with great enthusiasm and fanfare on their parts, Bill Barr was very excited about bringing back the federal death penalty during the Trump administration, which again, if you're a longtime listener, I absolutely oppose. But also, this isn't the only thing that Biden campaigned on that he's been quiet about. Biden, at one point during the campaign, expressed enthusiasm, well, albeit maybe somewhat tepid, for doing something about cannabis finally. Not only decriminalizing or legalizing cannabis federally, but granting clemency to those and having their records expunged to nonviolent offenders who are currently in federal prison for cannabis. And both he and Kamala Harris, they've really kind of shut up about that once they got elected, once they got in, once they were inaugurated. You really don't hear anything about that from them. There's others who are on both sides of the aisle who are trying to do something on that, but the Biden administration doesn't seem to be showing any interest in that now. They're not talking about it. Biden could commute the sentences of people on federal death row, but has not. It's almost as though he wants criminal justice reform to happen without him actually having to stick his own neck out at all. He wants criminal justice reform bills to be passed, and to be clear, this is good. It's much better for Congress to actually change the laws and penalties to make them less harsh so that we don't have to rely on executive discretion. But this discretion is a legitimate expression of executive authority under the law as well. If people in home confinement aren't showing themselves to be dangerous to their communities, this should be taken as an indication that there's no actual criminal justice purpose being served by putting them back in prison cells once the pandemic is declared over. So there you go. I wanted to touch on that. And, I don't know when the pandemic is going to be declared over at the rate we're going. So some of these people, that number is around 4,000 now. That number may shrink. just by virtue of attrition, in that some of these people, I assume the time that they are on home confinement is being counted. I hope that it is, and it's not a pause in their sentences somehow. So some of these people may reach the end of their sentence before the pandemic is ever actually declared over. So we'll see. We'll see where we end up there. Let's see. We have time to get one more thing in here. There is, we'll go back to COVID. I actually was surprised to see this. This is from thehill.com. A new poll shows nearly 3 in 4 support reinstating mask mandates if COVID-19 cases rise. This actually surprised me a little bit. Again, this is from The Hill. Nearly 3/4 of voters support reinstating mask mandates in their area if there is a spike in coronavirus cases. 74% of registered voters in the July 16-17 survey said they support reissuing a mask mandate if their area experiences a rise in cases. This includes 46% who strongly support bringing back mask mandates and 28% who somewhat support the idea. By contrast, 26% of respondents say they oppose such a move, including 12% who somewhat oppose and 14% who strongly oppose. 93% of Democrats said they support reinstating mask mandates if their areas see an upswing in COVID-19 cases, along with 71% of independents and 59% of Republicans. 59% of Republicans, that surprises me, but it encourages me. And let me tell you why. If this is accurate, if 59% of Republicans say they support reinstating a mask mandate, that would mean to me that 59% of Republicans, a majority of Republicans, are actually, at least the ones in this poll, are actually taking COVID seriously, at least somewhat, if they would support reinstating a mask mandate. So that's actually encouraging to me. I like that number, regardless of how I or you or anyone feels about the mask mandate itself. To see 59% of Republicans supporting that gives me some hope in terms of Republicans taking this seriously. Oh, we had a call, but our caller didn't want to wait. Over the weekend, Los Angeles County announced that it will be requiring all residents to wear masks indoors in public spaces, regardless of vaccination status, as the area experiences a rise in coronavirus cases. It has a margin of error of 3.17 percentage points. 3.17, that's very specific with the margin of error. Hi, welcome to Matt Connarton Unleashed. Who's this?
Your old pal, Fred.
Hey, Fred. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Doing well. It's been a long time.
Yeah, I've been just fishing.
Oh, well, good.
Waiting for Washington to open up again, and then we can get back there. But nothing's really open. Still everything is pretty much virtual.
Yes, absolutely. What's going on?
Well, I was just listening to you talking about vaccines, and it's just so amazing that we now see the Fox News and the right deciding that they should get on board at this point. I guess somebody must have warned them that if all their voters die, it's not going to work out well.
I think that's part of it, but I also think that there might be a fear of getting sued. Like what happened with the who's the one who filed the lawsuit over the voting machines? All the
Dominion.
Dominion, yeah. I think they might be afraid of something like that. But while some of them, some of them on Fox might be sort of tepidly, gently trying to get people to get vaccinated. I'm sure if you turn on Tucker Carlson tonight, he'll still be pounding the table about how you shouldn't get vaccinated and it's all fake. And I'm sure Laura Ingraham will be doing the same thing. They'll still be playing the hits. They're not going to change.
Well, they don't have to. They still need that audience. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They still need that audience to be tuning in.
Yeah.
Because, once it's all going to come around, and I mean, sooner or later they'll all come to the point where they're like, "Oh yeah, we've always said that this was important. You just didn't understand what we were saying."
Right.
It's just the same nonsense. But it's kind of scary because I was at like a birthday party this weekend, and I have my vaccinated AF shirt on, and for those people that don't know what that means, just think about it a second.
Yeah.
But and because I want people to know that I'm vaccinated and that, I'm not. It's not about me anymore.
Right.
I'm probably going to live if I get it. Even it's you.
Right. Exactly.
You.
Exactly.
So.
Yeah.
So I just am just totally amazed at how people have made this so political.
Plan for President Trump. I don't know if you heard me talking about it. I said that if he went on a major press offensive, goes on all the shows on Fox, and anyone who will book him, and he can take all the credit he wants to for the vaccines, and just really made that push and said, I want everyone to get vaccinated. I truly believe every MAGA cultist in America, if they heard him say that decisively and forcefully, they'd be lining up to get vaccinated, and we could finally put this to rest. And then Trump could turn around and say, oh, look, Sleepy Joe couldn't get it done, but I did, and I wasn't even president at the time, and that would run again. He will be the nominee. I think that would be a great strategy for him, and I think he could win with that.
Well, he could have stayed in office had he not,
agreed,
denigrated blacks and women and actually had an infrastructure plan and gave money to the poor. I mean, he'd still be in office.
Yeah, and taken COVID, and if he had taken COVID seriously,
if pigs could fly,
right, absolutely. Well, Fred, I'd love to talk to you more, but we actually have to begin.
I know you got to go.
There's another live show coming up, but it's wonderful to hear from you, my friend. I wish you would call.
Well, I'm just glad that you're safe and you're healthy. I've been vaccinated, like you say.
Awesome.
I think the last time I got my vaccine was April 1st was when I got my second one.
Good.
And I have a Pfizer one, so I'm feeling really good. I'm just so afraid that
ourselves are,
we're going out.
Exactly.
We'll be at the Hop Knot.
That's right. Very good.
All right, boss. Have a good day.
All right, Fred. Thank you so much for the call. Take care.
Thank you later.
All right, bye-bye. All right, Fred Boenig from the Daily Ripple and Ripple Radio. But we do need to wrap up because Kyle Heavey is going to be live in just a few minutes with a live Wednesday edition of Off the Mark Sports right here from WMNH. So if you missed any part of today's show of this program, it'll be up in just a little bit at WMNHradio.org and at my website, mattconnarton.com. So stick around. Kyle's next. And, of course, make sure you're back bright and early, 7 a.m. for the morning show. Everybody be safe. Get vaccinated. And I'll talk at you a little bit later. Bye, everybody.